Welcome. I'm Tita Chico, Professor of English and Faculty Director of the Center for Literary and Comparative Studies at the University of Maryland. The Center convenes this year-long series on anti-racism to act on statements of solidarity for Black Lives Matter issued by the department, the college, and the university. Black Lives Matter. With this series, we also celebrate the memory of Second Lieutenant Richard Collins III, a young man who was about to graduate from Bowie State University in the spring of 2017, when, on the campus of University of Maryland, he was murdered by a white supremacist. A young man whose parents lobbied successfully for the state of Maryland to amend the hate crime laws. Second Lieutenant Richard Collins III. Black Lives Matter. And we convene this series to honor and highlight the long-standing commitment among many English department faculty and students to anti-racist scholarship and teaching. We also want to acknowledge that the grounds of the university are the original homelands of the Anacostan and Piscataway tribal nations. The University of Maryland is dotted with buildings that name but forget this indigenous history. Robin Wall Kimmerer, a botanist and a member of the citizen Potawatomi Nation, gives us a way to think through and to think with this indigenous history using the plant sweetgrass. Sweetgrass, she writes, is passed from hand to earth to hand across years and generations. Sweetgrass, she tells us, thrives along the disturbed edges. Our event today enacts that handing down, that thriving along disturbed edges. African American language, Black women, and the teaching of writing features Dr. Brittany S. Hull, Dr. Temptaous McKoy, and my colleague at the University of Maryland, Dr. Cecilia Shelton. As co-authors of the article, Dressed but Not Trying to Impress, Black Women Deconstructing Professional Dress, Drs. McKoy, Hull, and Shelton together model critical scholarship that challenges the academic collective to rethink, to challenge, and to dismantle white heteronormative definitions of professionalism. Using an autoethnographic methodology, they each reflect upon how attire might be used in rhetorical ways. And individually and together, they represent what an academic is, what college professors are. The Center's Anti-Racism series is co-sponsored by the University Libraries, the Graduate School's Office of Diversity and Inclusion, and the Protrude Foundation. And today's event is co-sponsored by the Language, Writing, and Rhetoric Event Series. With this support, we're able to commit to making these events accessible with live captioning. You'll find the live captioning in the Typewell window. Thank you to Danielle Griffin and Liam Daly, the Center's graduate assistants, and as always, a very special thank you to Dr. Karen Nelson, co-director of the Center and Director of Research Initiatives for the Department of English. Our speakers will be in conversation, and Dr. Shelton will moderate the Q&A.
Thank you, Tita, for getting us started, and good evening, everybody. My name is Dr. Cecilia Shelton. I am an assistant professor of English here at the University of Maryland, and I am extremely excited to moderate this conversation between Dr. Brittany Hull and Dr. Temptaous McKoy. So I will introduce them to you before they begin their conversation. Dr. Brittany Hull is an interdisciplinary scholar whose work centers Black women's language and Black girl literacies. She holds a PhD in composition and applied linguistics from Indiana University of Pennsylvania. Dr. Hull is a 2017 Conference on College Composition and Communication Chairs Memorial Scholar and a recipient of the 2018 Conference on College Composition and Communication Scholars for the Dream Award. Currently, her research examines the scholarly identity development of Black language-speaking Black women teachers of English as they enter and navigate academia, specifically the field of rhetoric and composition. With a teaching commitment to honoring Black language and helping students bring more of their whole selves to their writing, Dr. Hull is currently a lecturer in the program in Writing and Rhetoric at Stanford University. Welcome, Dr. Hull. Dr. Temptaous McKoy is from Spring Lake, North Carolina, and she is an assistant professor of English with a focus in technical and professional communication in the Department of Language, Literature, and Cultural Studies at Bowie State University. She also serves as the coordinator of graduate studies in her department. Her research focuses on redefining the field of technical and professional communication and challenging it to be more inclusive of the formal and informal communicative and learning practices found in Black communities such as HBCUs. She's an HBCU alum from Elizabeth City State University and also a member of Sigma Gamma Rho Sorority Incorporated. Her PhD and her research is in rhetoric, writing, and professional communication, and she recently served as chair of the Conference on College Composition and Communications Black Technical and Professional Communication Task Force. She is the associate editor of Patho, where she aims to prioritize new titles for review that are published by historically marginalized scholars, to leverage Patho's platform and take tangible steps toward a more inclusive field of scholarship in the feminist history of rhetoric and composition. Welcome, Dr. McKoy. And so these are their official bios, but I think it's also important for you to know that not only are Dr. Hull and Dr. McKoy my colleagues, they are also my sister scholars. I want you to know that they're my friends because what you're about to experience, the brilliance, the affirmation, and the incisive and smart commentary and critique, all of this is the insight that I've had the pleasure of benefiting from in one of my favorite group chats for the last 2 or 3 years. And so I feel like this is a window into our group chat. So I'm excited for you to join us, to see what happens, what goes down in the group chat. And if you're here and you are taking notes, then this is the first point that you should get down. Grab your pen. Get your back channel together. Make sure that you have a support group. Make sure that you have a group chat that is as tight as mine is. So welcome, Dr. Hull and Dr. McKoy, and let's have a great conversation.
No, for those of y'all who don't know, me and Brittany go back and forth. Dr. Shelton is also an HBCU grad from the illustrious, because all HBCUs are illustrious, Winston-Salem State University. So I just wanted to make sure everyone knew that as well. So moving to our second question, Dr. Hull. How did you come to see Black women's language as a crucial area for investigation as a writing instructor?
Thank you for this question. I thought about it, but essentially, I came to realize, Black women's language as a crucial area for investigation after an experience that I had. So, in my dissertation titled "When You Use Your White Voice to Get the Job," Black women English teacher scholars linguistic identity negotiation, I share 5 different narratives of experiences that I had, and the one experience that basically was the catalyst for my study was when I was working at my alma mater. I had just finished teaching a class, and it was a good day, and I was being me, and a senior level faculty member, who was a white woman, we had a conversation. I don't remember details of what we said, but I do remember she said something and I responded in Black language, like how I naturally speak. And she stopped and, came back and was like, "You meant to say," and I'm like, "Nah, I meant to say it like that." And I'm going about my business. And then she got mad and she's standing in my doorway, she huffing and puffing. And she was like, "Well, if you're going to talk like that, why do you want to teach? We have to set examples for our students." Mind you, I was at an HBCU where the majority of the students looked like me. so like I was feeling some type of way, and like, but initially, like, my response, I kind of flipped it a little bit, and I don't want to say I code switched, but like I gave her essentially in my response what she desired, which was that standard academic or American English. And I was, I basically said, teaching is way more than how I talk, and that I'm setting an example just by virtue of being who I am, just being me. Once I walk into that classroom, um, I'm setting an example because, contrary to popular belief, some HBCU students, they experience having their first Black teacher once they hit the HBCU. So for this, this woman, she was operating from a position of privilege, a privilege that I didn't have. She had more privileges. Not only was she, tenured faculty, but, I was an adjunct. I was leaving, my job teaching and going to Target, where I was a cashier. I was a Target team member for some time. So it was interesting, but the damage was already done, So I was sitting there and I'm all like, well, damn, am I really setting an example? Like, and I remember at one point, a couple of days after that, going into the classroom and, telling my students, you can't talk like you on the block. But in my comments on their papers, I'm talking like how they talk, or how we talk rather. And I'm like, all right, what's going on here? And why am I, feeling like I don't belong, or like I can't do this? And that was interesting for me to kind of, once I got to my PhD, it was something that I really wanted to interrogate. And, that was the one thing that I was like, yo, I need to do some more work on this, because I really didn't find out about Black language. I didn't even know it was a thing until I was in my master's program. And, this experience happened after my master's. So I'm thinking like, oh, well, it's out here, a lot of people must know about it. But that experience in and of itself showed me that a lot of people don't.
And I think it's very interesting that you've brought up how such a negative experience kind of spearheaded you into, a research interest that, you kind of already have, but then now you determined to go into it, and now you're going to change it. And I think it's pretty dope that you get to mention that, because it happens for a lot of us. Me and you chat all the time. Having someone get my name wrong and try to understand business documents with my name on it was a thing that made me say, I'm gonna go get my PhD in this. Like, let me go see what's this about. So I think in you sharing that experience is something that's pivotal to so many other Black and brown students that's sitting here listening to this conversation with us as well. So I'm gonna go into my next question. All right, sis. Excuse me, ma'am. I'm going to move to the next question at this moment.
All right, Dr. McCoy.
Okay. So your dissertation includes and cites so many great, powerful Black women. So, we got Geneva Smitherman, and we got Dr. April Baker Bell, one of my mentors that I love dearly and keep close to my heart. And even Auntie Elaine, Dr. Elaine Richardson, was on your committee. Yes, you had that powerhouse on there. So how do you see this forging of the path that they've created, or, you're standing on their shoulders of greats, essential to the work that you do as a Black woman?
Thank you for this question. And this was the question that it wasn't hard, but it was kind of like emotional. And like we try to hide our emotions, but I think it's a moment of what I would, to quote Dr. Kirsten Scott, where she said critical vulnerability. So this is the question. I needed them. I needed these Black women scholars who came before me for this project. I needed, Dr. E's expertise. I needed Dr. E to introduce me to the work of Dr. Sonia Lanehart. I needed, Dr. Sonia Lanehart and Dr. E to introduce me to the work of Dr. Marcelina Morgan. I needed Dr. April Baker Bell's work for my methodology, because I was, from what I received during graduate school, we learned about a lot of dead white guys, and their contributions to, composition and rhetoric and literacy, but we don't often talk about the Anna Julia Coopers. And, I was in a meeting once and I had to bring up, talking and testifying from Dr. Geneva Smitherman. And afterwards, somebody asked me, could you repeat that title? And they had never heard of it before. And I was sitting here, I was pissed, because it's like, we learn about, we get to graduate school, at least in my experience, I don't want to speak for everybody else, but you don't get a lot of, Black scholars of the field in your coursework. Like, you had to seek, you had to find them. And to, in doing this project, and even as I got ready to do this project and I was reading, like, if I saw a picture, I remember when I first saw Dr. E, it was at my first 4 Cs, and I didn't see her, but I heard her. And that was my first thing, like, oh shit, so I can do this. And I look up there and, like, to see Dr. E, giving a presentation, and then to read, these works by these women. I needed, the work of those Black women literacy scholars who had came before me to get to this work, to be able to share it with others. And I'm always shouting out Dr. E, and in my head, Dr. April Baker Bell is my cousin. And I don't even know if she know that, but if she on here, now. Hey, cuz. But it's like, I needed that. And also, one of the things that I wanted to touch on is that I was frustrated not knowing, like, that I had to get to the PhD level to learn about so many Black women specifically who contributed to the field, and to who basically laid the foundation of not only the work that I'm able to do and enter this conversation on Black women's language and Black teacher identity. It seemed to me that due to the lack of me knowing about them, like through finding out about this work through my coursework, that it's willful ignorance. Like, I don't see how you could be a composition program and not talk about the work of these women and their contributions to Black language and to the field overall. So, yeah.
Ooh, baby, you done struck a nerve on that willful ignorance now. We can't be saying that up in here now. We can't now. But I love what you're getting to, and it takes me to my very next question. So I'm loving it, sis. Now, you're talking about how, we had to go off and discover these Black women, these scholars, right? Because we want to share this knowledge that we're getting. But it's a part of us, right, that we still want to protect that, right? Like, we don't want everybody up here. Like, I'm just waiting to see how some of this conversation we're having is going to be tweeted about. If someone's going to turn my y'alls into you all once that starts to happen, right? So how do you think we can preserve the essence and beauty that is Black language, especially while we're teaching writing, right, while sharing it at the same time? Or is it even possible for us to address this crossroad?
This the one. I mean, I feel like the way that we can preserve the essence essentially is to keep using it. Like, don't alter how you say certain stuff, right? Don't feel obligated to provide a definition of what we say, because it's like the people that need to hear it, they gonna hear it and they gonna know what it is, right? But I think it's already it's beautiful, and we see that it's being preserved, and we see the beauty by how not only we use it, but how it's also used in popular culture. You know, whoever run the Wendy's Twitter account, they definitely, you know, black language. I don't know if they black. We can assume that they black, but you know, um, it's that, I guess, that commercial aspect of, like, we see it all the time. So I feel like it's never going to go away. If anything, it's going to continue to evolve because, you know, I think language, like Black people and Black culture, it evolves. It's ongoing, right? Um, is it possible for this crossroads to, like, okay. So do we want to preserve it? I think we preserve it and share it simultaneously. I don't know, does that make sense? I think we share it and we preserve it at the same time, because the thing is, no matter, I feel like it's certain things that in Black language that, you know, is said by a Black person that it may not transfer, if that makes sense, when said by, say, a white person. So example, that woo chile. We don't say that. That ain't even it. You know? So like, we knew what it meant. That's why we could, you know, be on Twitter and be like, no, this ain't right. This ain't it. So I think we preserve it by using it continuously, and then using it in spaces where historically we've been told not to. You know, so I mean, anybody who's seen me give a presentation at C's, I'm talking just like this. I don't sugarcoat, or I guess censor, in a sense. At least I try not to. Even if I start off trying to, it's like, all right, it go out the window. Because at this point, it's like, yo, I don't want to feel like I'm wearing a mask. Like that, you know, the old Paul Laurence Dunbar poem, We Wear the Mask.
Yeah, I feel you on that. Like, you start out trying to do it right. Like, hello, I'm so-and-so. I'm about to talk about the pedagogical practices. Like, nah, we're going to talk about how you teach somebody how to write something, okay? That's what we're about to talk about, right?
And you got to put air quotes around right.
Exactly, right? So this leads to, this is not one that I sent you, sis, but it's one that I thought of as you was answering. So don't hate me on this one. Girl, don't you get your eyes big on me. Don't you do it to me now. So we have a lot of people here that are not Black that are listening to this conversation, right? How do they honor and respect the Black language that they may hear from their students while they're in the writing classroom, or as it may show up in their writing? So without wagging their finger, of course, right? Because we see how that can kind of, that tension happens where we like, oh, you write the way you talk, but they, you know, but it's not communicated all the way through what that really means. So how do our scholars that are not Black still honor and preserve and respect Black language in the writing classroom?
I think they can honor it by I would say, taking the initiative to learn about their student population. And I don't want to say, oh, well, you know, read a book, but I definitely want to, I would say a lot of people who are doing this work, and I can shout out Dr. Baker Bell, and her work and her pedagogical practices, and this idea of what I allude to in my dissertation is checking your biases. A lot of times, like, in my experience, I was critiqued on my language because I guess how that senior level faculty member who attempted to correct me was taught, like, you gotta speak standard. It's a certain way. Like, when I think of English, it's standard and you doing it quote unquote wrong. So I think with teachers, non-Black teachers, they could familiarize themselves with the language, and understand that it is a language. It is not, it's not like a derivative or sometimes you hear people say dialect of the language. It is a rule-governed language. So educate yourself and, move accordingly. Ask your students questions. I think asking students to create, a dictionary or something, not personally for you, but like allow them to know that like they are, you know, teachers, they are owners, or they have agency and with how they speak and what they write, and that, all that good stuff. I hope I answered it right. You slid that one in.
Oh no, I got one more I gotta sleep.
Now look,
I gotta make sure I'm watching the time too, to make sure I get you right for your Q&A. So you mentioned that you taught at an HBCU, and then you taught at a PWI, predominantly white institution. And you and I have always chatted about these different experiences. So what has been the receptiveness to your Black language teaching writing from your HBCU students and your students? And you're smiling because we both had these experiences. So, but I think it's important that people hear it, right? Because everybody's shaking their head like, I'm gonna go do it. But it don't roll like that. So do you mind briefly sharing with everyone your experiences of the receptiveness between teaching and using Black language to teach writing at an HBCU versus at a PWI?
Okay, so at my HBCU, before I was like knee deep into this work, it was like me, like, again, how I'm talking to y'all and, how we talk in our group chats and stuff like that, even down to my emails or my posts on Canvas. Like, I'm being myself, right? And myself includes Black language. That's, how I talk. So at the HBCU, it was, I would say it was kind of, I guess, mixed. I don't want to say reviews, and I'm saying reviews because thinking about the some of my course evaluations that I received, like, you get the anonymous ones. I've had, comments from students where it's like, she needs to use correct English. And again, I got that type of comment at an HBCU. So it's like, okay, maybe this is a student who has been conditioned or has, assimilated to using standard. Standard English is standard English use is the so-called way forward. It's the, pinnacle of success. But we all know, all as in Black people or people of color, that regardless of how you speak, you may not get that promotion, right? It's just different things connected to it. So I've had instances, I would say, at the HBCU level where my students some of them were receptive and felt comfortable not only speaking out in class in Black language, but some students, they wrote in Black language. And I'm like, yo, that's dope. Like, thanks. Like, I've encouraged it. But then you definitely have some students who are hesitant, and it's hard, or it has been hard, trying to get them to know, like, yo, like, you're not wrong, you're not defective, as you may have been told in the past. So that was interesting at the HBCU level, to have kind of like those exchanges. At the PWI level, it was interesting. I've had students make comments. I've had students email department chairs, or and at one point when I walked in class, I'm like, "What's up, y'all?" And I'm at, I don't know if it was because of my use of Black language, or if it was just the fact that it was my very being. So yeah, it's been interesting. It's been interesting.
Thank you. All right, I have your final question, and we can go into Q&A, Dr. Shelton. All right, so the final question here. So in your dissertation, and again, that's why I asked that question. It's a segue, I got you. So in your dissertation, again, you mentioned the pressures and downright annoyances you faced having to teach students that are not of color and may read you as unprofessional. Again, this is something you and I both have had experience with. We done texting went on in, and I've shared with some people that's one of the reasons that kind of pushed me to going back to teach at an HBCU, because I needed the break after I was at East Carolina. So me and you definitely chat about that. So knowing what you know now, what would you say to that Brittany just starting out teaching? So in other words, what would you say to that young Black scholar that is just getting their footing in utilizing Black language to teach writing?
What would I say? And it's almost cliche, but I would say be yourself. Don't alter who you are. Don't alter how you speak, because I've had, I've received more emails from students, and from when if I gave a presentation at C's, I've received more emails from people saying like, thank you. And I think it's important for people to see it modeled. So I would just say be yourself, because I think I've put I don't want to say waste of time, but I put a lot of energy into, I guess, positioning myself as this standard speaker. Like, if I don't talk a certain way, are they going to take me serious as a scholar? If I don't write a certain way, are they going to take me serious as a scholar? And it's like, I take me serious as a scholar. And if, a particular journal don't want my work because I'm writing in Black language, then maybe that ain't the publication for me, and I'm fine with that, because then I get the attitude like, well, I don't want to be in your funky little publication anyway. But I would say be yourself and not stress as much as you do, and I still do. And y'all laughing because y'all know, like, she be tripping. I do. It's I think it's an ongoing process, though, to kind of talk yourself out of, okay, this is going to be horrible, or I don't know this word, and realize that I've done this research. And if, my participants trusted me with, their stories and sharing their experiences, why not, move forward like that and trust myself more? So I definitely would tell myself to trust myself more.
Well, thank you so very much, sis. Dr. Shelton, I'll turn it over to you.
That was a fantastic conversation. I'm excited about extending it and opening it up to the folks who are here and joining us. So if you've got questions in mind, please go ahead and hit that Q&A button and get those questions coming our way so that we can have a conversation with Dr. Hull and Dr. McKoy that incorporates the kinds of things that you're thinking about and interested in. But to start us off, I want to ask a question about accountability. So I feel like we're in this moment where people are attending to, we can talk about the extent to which that is performative, but in any case, people are attending to what the voices, the scholarship of Black people, Black women in general. But as Dr. McKoy's question alludes to, your answer gets at to Dr. Hull. You are standing in a tradition of scholarship, both within and outside the academy, of people thinking about the literacies of Blackness. And so I'm thinking about the ways that we've come from something like a student's right to their own language, all the way through to, I think it was over the summer, where we get a committee chaired by Dr. April Baker-Bell, who offers us a demand for Black linguistic justice, right? And I'm thinking about the ways that even the shift in how that is framed. And I'm thinking about, what do you think people need to do different in engaging with these kinds of statements? And they're clear that the demand for Black linguistic justice is not just another statement. And so there are a number of demands. People should check that statement out from C's. How can we hold the folks who are willing to cite us to check the box, frankly, in some cases, but not engage with our scholarship, with our ideas, not be courageous enough and decenter themselves to employ them in their pedagogies? What does it look like to be accountable to the kinds of work that you're talking about, Dr. Hull?
Thank you for this question, Dr. Shelton. This accountability, I would say we could start, or you know, if I'm thinking about departments and doctoral programs, is, you know, start by hiring Black scholars who, you know, have studied this work, and, you know, hire them like in tenure track positions. And, you know, and if you go and ask them to do like something like this, offer them something for their time. Because oftentimes you hear about the labor that Black scholars tend to do, and you know, and not just Black scholars, but scholars of color, they tend to do around, you know, this, I guess, more diverse issues, or, you know, when it comes to the field. I think we can take them to task in making sure that, okay, how are you putting action behind, you know, checking off that box? It's one thing to check off the box, but are you really engaging with their work? Like, are white professors incorporating the work of these scholars into their syllabi? Are you, you know, the same way that we're introducing, oh my gosh, name somebody, dead white guy, that we learned about. If we are going to, you know, have these conversations or touch base or talk about, want to be accountable, right? We want to address, you know, issues with diversity in our departments. I think it starts in our classrooms. You know, decolonize your syllabus. I got, what is her name? The woman, it's a Chicana scholar who mentioned decolonizing your syllabus. Add these people, these scholars who do this work to your syllabi, to your readings, and, you know, make it a professional development thing. Have your introduce, if some of these professors don't know these scholars, allow them to be in conversation with them. So yeah, I think that's a way that they could definitely be, these departments could be accountable and really put action next to, you know, that checking off that box.
Can I add a little bit to that, Dr. Hull?
Mm-hmm.
One thing I wanted to add to that was actually keeping your students accountable as well. So I'm thinking of an experience that I had while in our PhD program with Dr. Shelton. We were in the class and we were reading a text, and there was a specific chapter on race. And then that night, the Black students took over the class. Like we was going to talk about this chapter on race, right? So that also means if you're going to introduce it in your class, don't just have it on your syllabus and graze over it because, oh, they read it. That's it. Like you let them sit in silence and not actually engage in the text, because once that happens, you just as guilty as everyone else that's in the room. So that's one thing I want to add on to that, Dr. Hull.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, Dr. McKoy, because I think we probably had a number of experiences like I don't know which one you're talking about, but
yeah,
it could be one. It could be one of many. And I think what's important is not just like being willing to, one, not silo those conversations into like the diversity week or whatever, but putting Black scholars into conversation so that they are in some ways critiquing other scholars. And then also in many of those conversations that you're talking about, Dr. McKoy, because there were a number of us Black grad students, and because our professors were able to decenter themselves in many cases and allow our expertises to emerge, we could sort of we could sort of emerge as leaders and as experts in particular things, and co-construct that knowledge with our professors and with our classmates, in ways that were validating. So I think that's really important. And actually, the next question that I want to ask kind of gets um, at thinking about sort of what that looks like in sort of the nuts and bolts when you're teaching. So we're all probably familiar with sort of a general composition style. This question talks about, introduction paragraphs, body paragraphs, sort of that sort of standard 5-paragraph essay kind of theme, counter arguments, the ways that we teach students argument. What does Black women's composition look like? Are there alternatives that Black women's literacies offer to that general style, that can sort of counter what we get from dead white guys, as you put it, Dr. Hull?
Thank you for this question. This is a good question. I think I would say I think Black women's composition style, if we're talking about, I guess, in practice, I mean, for me, I just write using Black language. So I don't know if it's like a structural thing as much, because it's interesting. I personally, I would say I'm between the two, because I was, taught, oh, we have to write using standard, right? And it wasn't until I had gotten into, closer into, the PhD and learned about, Black language being rule governed. It's not bad. It's not quote unquote wrong, that I would take the liberty to, in my work, do that, write using Black language. And I would it was kind of experimental. I wanted to see what the professor was going to say, right? And then, like, if they marked it wrong or quote unquote marked it wrong, then I would just be like, all right, let me just give them what they want, because this is my audience, right? But I don't know or maybe I haven't delved into the idea of a specific Black women's composition style or structure, as much as it's like me using Black language in my work to talk about these things, these issues that I see. But it's also I would say I use a combination personally, just based on how I had been, I guess, trained since elementary school to use standard mostly. So yeah, I don't know. That's a good question. I would encourage students to use, their own languages. I have students right now, she identifies as Chicana, and I told students from the beginning, like, bring yourself to the page. Like, I don't mind. And like, she's writing a research-based argument and she's incorporating some Spanish, and I'm like, yo, I don't know what this means right now, but I know when we have our conference, she's gonna help me out because I don't know it. So it's like, she bringing herself, and I have a couple students who see like how maybe I email, and they email me the same way. Then I had a student like, yo, is this okay? Like, I know I could do this with you, but can I do this with other people? And I'm like, I mean, you might, but then they might tell you, oh no, they expect a certain, I guess, decorum. So I don't know, that's interesting. That's something I'm gonna have to look into. So thank you for that question.
Yeah, I think at least for me, it's hard to pin it down when you are doing it necessarily, but I think you make a good point about meshing academic language with your own variety, your own language. And so, it took me a long time to realize that my affinity for this is, I don't know, I hadn't planned to say this. My affinity for alliteration probably comes from growing up in a Black church. We love to put, if it's P, we want 3 Ps, okay? So, and all kinds of other things, all call and response, things you can do rhetorically with your cultural language practices. How can you draw on that? And how does it show up in how you're communicating in a 5-paragraph essay? Like, it's not like you might not necessarily invent a new organization style, but like, how can you draw on those rhetorical practices? I like the way that you talked about meshing the two together. I think that's important. Let's see. Another question that we have is a really important question, actually. Do you want to talk a little bit about, we talked about experiences with students and a little bit with colleagues. Do you want to talk a little bit about working with administrators? So what is your experience with administrators been like, and what can administrators at the department level, at the college level, do to support Black language scholars?
I'm talking all muted. So I'm, in my experience, so aside from the experience I had with, the being corrected by the senior white woman faculty member and administrator, because she was an administrator, I've been blessed to, I guess when people come in contact with me, they've already, I guess, done their research. So like where I am currently is encouraged to, be your full self and, to be, in a sense, I guess, innovative. These, working with, how can I put it? Working with, I guess, students, or just being a person who is, I guess, going against the status quo, right? I have not had that experience had a negative experience with an administrator. So I'm not super sure how I would probably go about like getting somebody like involved. If I was, I would say, present the research. Like, this is not, it's, and that was one of the things that frustrated me about me doing my research. I was upset that I'm like sitting here and I'm having this experience, or I had this experience that led me to this work. And here I could go as far back as, Anna Julia Cooper's work and see that somebody was in the 19th century was doing this already. But it's like, that's where that willful ignorance comes up. This idea, I think, that we are doing something so left field by, showing up as ourselves and, saying, okay, you know what, I'm tired of using my quote unquote white voice. I'm gonna be, be myself. So I feel like if there is like a mission of the university, of the department, right, that is like, everybody has a diversity statement, but then if you don't accept diverse individuals as, your faculty or your staff, and how they bring these diverse, I guess, quote unquote, again, diverse ideas to your program, then I think that's problematic. But I get where it's difficult, depending on your positionality, to, talk to these people in these positions of power, like as administrators, the people who are in charge of the money. It's hard to talk to them about getting funding or for something when it don't meet the status quo. So I don't know. It's interesting, yo. Anybody else want to add?
I mean, the best way that I will say it again, I'm about like you, Brittany. I'm blessed enough. I'm at Bowie where this is not a major thing, but I am at a HBCU where standard American English is still prioritized, so I will still recognize that. But if we're dealing with administrators, I would first say, and to echo your point about positionality, I will first say recognize where you stand in that argument. And if it's worth you about to put, am I about to put my hand on the table for you to slap it, and then I got to sit there by myself to deal with the pain of it? Far too many times, Black women, scholars of color, women in departments go up to bat for things to only get their hands slapped, and everyone say, "Oh my God, that like you come to my office to tell me how sad it was when you could have said something right then and there." So I think that I think that comes back. So when you end that department meeting and someone says we should decolonize our syllabus, instead of sitting in the back shaking your head actually open your mouth and say, yes, that is a good idea. Find the old white dude in the department who ain't got but 3 years left to go. He really ain't got nothing to lose. Convince him to stand up and open his mouth. I'm trying to put y'all on game, right? There are people in our departments who ain't got nothing to lose, who will say what they want, do what they want, show up to meetings 30 minutes late and won't nobody check them at all. Those are the people you probably want to talk to because they may hold a little bit more weight than we may see or know. But if we're talking to administrators, I like what Dr. Hull said as well. Show them the research. Hey, look, this is what's happening. The conversation is happening. It's not new for me to show up and be the unapologetically Black self that I am. Like, this ain't nothing new. So being sure to echo that stuff home. But I think the main thing is, and I'm trying my best, and I don't know how many of y'all see my Twitter thread when I was going back and forth between like allies and co-conspirators and all of that language. And I think I'm to the point where I'm probably going to stop using that because I don't think you need a title for being a decent human being. I'm not going to call you an ally because you did what you should have done, right? So I'm trying to negotiate what that looks like. But if we're going to use the language, find who your allies are in the department that can go with you, that can go to bat. So you're not messing around about to lose your job trying to stand something while they sitting over there coming to talk to you after the meeting about how sad and miserable it was. And we all have been there. Everyone here shaking their head because we've all been there where something has happened in the department meeting and comes everyone to your office to tell you how sad they felt for you when they could have opened their mouth right then and there. So the same things happen when you're trying to bat for curriculum change and you want for teaching practices to change in your department.
That's a word.
It is.
Period. With a T. Okay.
I appreciate that. I think we have time for one more question. And I'm going to try to collapse a few. You kind of got at this at some point in the conversation. Dr. McKoy, you talked about the fact that, you know, the audience that's here with us includes some white folks. So in light of that, can we talk a little bit about what it means to be white and trying to adopt these practices that we're talking about, to be teaching white students, to be in a white supremacist culture where Black language, Blackness gets appropriated? You know, from any of those positions, what do you think, or what comments do you have about how we situate whiteness in this discussion, or
Britt,
don't, which is an option?
Britt, you mind if I chat and let you take us home, sis?
Go ahead, because I ain't trying to situate something that I can't relate to.
I ain't a white woman. I don't know if y'all knew that or not, but I don't know, Dr. Hull, you a white lady? I don't know. I hate to tell y'all.
I'm Black, yo.
But I'm black, y'all. But it made me think of Dr. Erin Frost had asked me to give her talk at C's, and one of her lines in there was, "I'm a something-year-old middle-aged white woman," and I couldn't keep my face straight to say that out loud to save my life because I'm not. But I bring that up because it really did make me think of how her experiences, how reflective she is in the way that she addresses TechCom in her writing style, and then how she always openly admits that. So going back to with this question, and I'm seeing it in this Q&A where someone's talking about, you know, white appropriation of Black language, or how if I don't know the word, what do I do? And this may sound so mean, but I'm gonna say Google it. You can Google it. So if you're not sure, Google it. There are a lot of times when Black students may say stuff that you may not be hip to. Google it. And it's fine to Google it. And then it's fine to come back to say, hey, I did the work to understand it. Now, will you please help me work with you even further? I'm blessed in the sense that I'm at HBCU and I'm working with Black students all the time. So a lot of their cultural references, I'm on it like white on rice. Every once in a while, they throw something at me. I don't know what they're talking about because I'm from the South and we're up north, right? So that gets into the conversation that I think some people are also missing when they're talking about Black language. Black language also differs based on region. So I'm from the South. I'm going to say, y'all, what y'all out here doing, right? Students up here, they look at me like I'm crazy when I say stuff like that. So you got to be willing to do the work to understand that it's not one blanket size thing that fits all, and just be willing to understand what you don't know and be okay with not knowing it. Sometimes you don't know. It's okay. I know I'm not trying to be, but it's okay to not know. We all know FUBU by now, and if you don't know, it's for us by us. Everything ain't for you. So if you got a student using Black language, Black writing, and you may not get it exactly, use the language that you do have to help them, right? So I know it's some double negatives going on in this sentence, so that ain't right, but I need to confirm with them that they said what they meant, right? Don't automatically mark it off as wrong. Actually talk through with that student. A lot of times that happened in my work where I use Black language, and now Dr. Shelton and Dr. Hull, who I've written with, where I had to be like, hey, yo, does this make sense? Because I'm not using SAE. So AAVE can lead to some misinterpretation, but I think the center of it, to answer that question for my white scholars, do the work and be okay with being uncomfortable and not knowing. And I'm a hush Dr. Hull. You take them home, girl. You got it.
I ain't got much to say, but what you said, do the work and, interrogate, ask questions, understand, like I said, I identify myself as a forever student. It's okay to not know something, because eventually you gonna find out, and it just adds to your repertoire of knowledge, right? But don't be the person that's like, oh, you know what, let me add something. We all, in grad school had that one person who ain't read shit, but then they got something to say. They want to piggyback off of somebody else. Don't actually do something, right? Do some reading, or again, ask questions. But I think one thing that is interesting when we think about like this appropriation, or even, I guess, to kind of go back to your question, Dr. McCoy, about, the preservation of language, is like, for Black people, we are often imitated, right? And the imitation is not always flattery. So it's interesting, how these dynamics work. But it's like, if you don't know something, it's okay not to know. Like we learner, we are all students of life. You ain't going, fall down and you ain't gonna turn into stone for not knowing something, right? So take that initiative and, ask questions if you see some Black language in your writing, instead of, marking it off wrong. But it's interesting that I'm saying this, because in my training, if I'm seeing some of my students writing, I find myself, quote unquote, like correcting them. And then I'm like, wait, like, should I reach out and ask? And then I do reach out and ask, and they're like, yeah, I did it, I did it because I modeled your syllabus. And I'm like, you did? Oh, like, you really doing it. So it's interesting how those dynamics work. And sometimes your asking can be that model. I tell my students, you in the place to be. If you don't know something, hopefully I know it, but if I don't know something, I'm going to go find out, or we going to Google together. Let me share my screen.
Exactly. And it's that willingness to also have that conversation with students about audience awareness, like you were saying, Dr. Hull. I see someone in here talking about, like, how do you have that conversation with the student? Like, I always talk to my students like, look, fam, you may not be able to walk out this space and speak this way or sound that way, but I got something that I don't know if some of y'all knew this or not, so I'm gonna bring some of y'all in here. Dr. Hull, you know this, and Dr. Shelton, you know this, but your students already know they can't talk like this outside these walls. I don't know how that becomes a thing. Like, I get it, but you ain't got to lecture a Black kid on how they need to know how to code switch when they leave your classroom.
Or any student of color, because the world has shown us experience, just the glares that you get by not looking like, the blonde hair, blue eyes, or brown hair, green eyes. We don't quote unquote match, how one of my students put it. I don't match the world. And I'm like, well, let's identify world. And we broke it down to being more specific. Don't think that the students is coming to you ignorant. They have this idea, the world around them tells them that they can't use Black, quote unquote, that they can't use Black language. But I think it was David Kirkland who said, like, you tell if we have people who tell students that they can't use this language, but it's the language of home. Like by virtue of association, you telling me that my grandma, who's 92 years old from Atlanta, Georgia, there's something wrong with her, and now we got to fight because you low key talking about my grandma and how she talk, and it's like, nah, you don't want that energy.
And they live in a world that already tell them that, right? So you ain't got to be the end all be all to tell them or remind them. Like, they know how this go. Your job is to kind of help influence them to be able to navigate these spaces. But I think another pushback on this, Dr. Hull and Dr. Shelton, that I always started to do is I say, why do you feel the need to remind them? So the generation under us is a generation that makes the change, right? So my generation, and me and my mother, we have this conversation all the time about how she's the generation that's hiring. And I'm like, but you can change, right? Like, so if we're the generation that's moving up, right, that's going to be doing the hiring and all the other stuff, then that means we're aware that Black language exists. You don't have an excuse, right? So if the students coming up under us are learning these ways, you're the one that's being the gatekeeper. And you choosing to be the gatekeeper, and you choosing to keep the wall up. So the work that Dr. Hull is doing, you the one choosing to fight that. That's on you. So you got a choice. Where you gonna stand in the battle is completely on you.
This is why I invited everybody into our group chat. I knew y'all were gonna come through on that last question, and this has been fantastic. I'm grateful to everybody who came with us on the journey. And thank you for being here. Thank you for being in conversation with us. And good night, everybody. Dr. McKoy, Dr. Hull, I will see you in the group chat.